Happy Campmass Eve to all who celebrate. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Nate Bauer thrown off by my introduction already. I love it. Listen, we have been waiting for 7 months now, 8 months, 9 months since Matt Campbell was hired for today. The talking season, as everyone wanted to call it in July, is over or is almost over. Tomorrow, things kick off in Happy Valley for Penn State football with Training Camp 2026, the first under Matt Campbell. So through all of that stuff, we're going to be discussing what Penn State fans need to know. Maybe there's some people that have not been checking in. Like James Franklin got fired. They watched the last game. They saw Matt Campbell was hired, and then they checked out. And they didn't really whatever. We'll find out in September. Well, we're here on the doorstep of that. So maybe there's some review we'll do today, but primarily what we're going to do is talk about the stories we're tracking over the next month or so, what we expect of Matt Campbell's first camp, and then we're going to do some stock reports. Who you're buying stock on before things kick off. Kind of putting our virtual theoretical money where our mouth is before all those things kick off. And the people that are going to be doing that with me and playing along with all my dumb games, Sean Fitz, Blue White Illustrated, Nate Bauer, Blue White Illustrated, are esteemed reporters here on the site. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Fitz, happy Campmass Eve to you.
Hey, happy Campmass Eve to you, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Finally, hopefully not everyone has eaten each other alive. I know some people did not make it out of the off season, but we're here. We're ready to talk about it. We're ready to talk about it a couple times a week. So finally, the pads aren't quite going on tomorrow because that's kind of the cliche, but going to get a couple acclimation practices in and then boom, hit the road, ready to go. And, we'll be there to report on it. So thanks to those who've joined us. Thanks to those who've stayed with us through the off season. I know it was a particularly tumultuous one, but yeah, good to be back. Good to be going.
What, Nate? What?
Tumultuous? It was a great offseason. It was fine. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt. There was not a single ACL torn in spring practice.
Why would you
No, I'm saying
we're starting off with the jinxes.
All the people that were hurt previously, which is that's a good vibe. That's a good thing for Penn State football.
Even your dog's like, why the hell would you say that?
Guys, he was so sniffy, everything he had to sniff. And I assumed that walking the dog for an hour would have him conked out right now, but
what's you get for buying a giant dog?
I didn't do it. My
limitless energy.
My wife.
He's accurate on that one. His wife was the driver behind this, and now he's just the one that does all the work. So welcome to dad fatherhood, Nate.
Oh, I also dropped the kids off at summer camp this morning. I mean, this is just cut me out.
All right, well, let's get to the big picture. Let's get to what we're talking about today, which is Penn State camp and what we should expect from Matt Campbell and his style of coaching. And Nate, we're actually going to rewind things and go back to Big Ten Media Days, which were a lifetime ago, and by that I mean last week. You had a quote from Matt Campbell that I wanted you to read for us here to start the show. So if you could pull up the rundown, I have it pulled out for you.
I got it.
And oh, perfect. So just read us what he had to say when talking about camp last week.
He said, I think this is the one portion of the season that is almost a non-negotiable, and I don't know if it's really changed. Yes, we used to have 2-a-days, but I still think the reality of what makes fall camp really challenging, and it should be, and it needs to be, is you are doing everything in your power to build the contact collision equity. I mean, that's a word.
Turn of phrase.
Salad. I love it.
I love it. Idea for a show here, since Matt Campbell, a bit monotone if you haven't noticed. If we get his press conference read by Nate live on air, or not, maybe not even live, but taped on air, I think we could do numbers with that, with his little
dramatic reading
pauses.
Yeah. I didn't finish the quote.
No, you didn't. You're not close.
To build the contact collision equity to prepare your football team for the start of the season.
I like it. I like hearing Nate read those things out loud. So, Fitz, what do you think? Do you think this is going to be an old school physical practice? Do you think this is going to be 2-a-days without 2-a-days? Or is that coach speak? There's something in between there, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's in between there because I think they're going to be physical. They've talked up throughout, but there's a limit on what you can do. And I know people don't particularly care for that because they want 2 days. We did 3 days back when I played. And one was a special teams practice, which is, my favorite. But you're looking at balancing that and figuring I don't want to say the realities of a 105-man roster. It's odd because he's coming from a place with a 125-man roster last year, but he's moving to a 105 and change roster right now. That's maybe deeper, better, I guess you could say, in terms of top to bottom there. So how does he balance that? Does he run a similar camp that he did, or to what he did when he had 125 guys to roll out there? I think he does. You've got some players that are making their way back from injury that you have to protect. No doubt about it. I mean, there's probably 10 guys in that list. Not saying that they're still hampered by those injuries, but you got to take it easy with them in early August if you want to have them in September, October, November. So I think that, there's going to be elements of a physical camp, but every college program in the country is dealing with the same thing right now. And how do you draw that line, and how much shorter is that line than it used to be, while retaining your tackling skills? We've had that one play out in front of us over the last couple of years at times. So that's been interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
No.
Can I, okay. So I just had to, I want to say Junction Boys, right? Like that's I want to get that reference out of the way. It's going to be hard. They're going to have a hard preseason camp. This just dawned on me. When they do, what's the Oklahoma drill, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to see that, right? Like in some variation. The whole point of that is that it's in a box, right? That it's condensed. So you don't actually get the opportunity to build up a head of steam.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
That was
I mean,
odd.
it's a direct head-on collision without like angles or anything. Like you are going as fast as you can for 10 steps. But yeah, it's not an open field tackle for sure.
Okay. In any case, look, the cliches are just seeping out of my pores, but like it's just going to be, Matt Campbell wants to run a physical, hard-nosed, blue-collar program. Lunch pail. What else? I mean, what else do you got? Are there other ones that I'm missing? Gritty, moxie,
tenacious, moxie. Yeah.
And so they're going to be really physical. It's amusing is not the right word, but they're going to do all the stuff. They're going to have hard practices, and then they're going to retreat to their nap pods in the Lash building, right? Like, so the physical recovery, the nutrition, like all of the coddling, right, of the past that didn't used to exist will exist on the backside of how physical these practices are. But obviously they can't get anybody hurt. So,
but that will happen. That is the nature of what he's trying to say here, of contact collision equity, building up within your psyche that football hurts a little bit, and that's okay. You've gone through the offseason of learning through drills, learning through a little bit of contact during the spring, but also highly instructional. They've gone for an NFL model this offseason in terms of walkthroughs and drilling the offense and getting everyone to mentally understand how things are happening. And now, how do you do it when you're tired and you're on the verge of puking and you have to maintain the same technical and mental discipline while also ramming yourself into a 330-pound defensive lineman? Those are that's contact collision equity in specifics. And so that's what they're trying to build.
They also did it's not like that was absent from the spring, right? I think
sure,
in terms of physicality, at least on the offensive and defensive lines, that was still there. They have been intentional about developing both of those units in that capacity specifically.
So anything else to hear on this, Fitz? Because I want to get to some of the other kind of big picture things for people to track over the next month or so before we get into some of our more specific things. But I just want to give you the final word here on what you think is coming up for the tone of what we're going to see.
Not really. No, I think it's going to be a protective, I don't want to say bubble around them, but like you can work into that for a few days. I mean, it's a long camp. Like football season's going to be, or like regular season's going to be here before we know it, but it's in the moment, it's going to be a long camp where you get some of those easy days, you get some of those hard days. I think the practice will be shorter. than we're probably used to seeing. But yeah, it'll be a nice little balance. They've been doing this for a while. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. There were some things, and Nate, we didn't get a chance to do this, but there were some things that Matt Campbell had to say during Big Ten Media Days that I don't think were intentionally meant as a dig at James Franklin, but I think it underscored his perception of how things were done and his view of how things should be done. And I think talking in this way maybe falls in that category, and I don't know if that's necessarily true as to what did and didn't transpire at Penn State. That's for another day. Just going to leave that dangling out there as a cliffhanger, because I want to get to some of the other big picture things that we're going to be tracking over the next month, like I've been saying here. But before I say that, please like the video, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Things are ramping up, and the schedule. Listen, we got the schedule recently for what camp is going to look like, and it nearly broke me because the times change throughout the camp, and there's going to be a transition period from when they practice in the afternoon to when they practice in the morning. When they practice in the morning, we're kind of screwed with our 10 a.m. time. So the best way to know when we're live or when we're talking to you on the internet, when the show is up for you to view and consume and to download into your brain data center, is to subscribe and enable notifications here on the YouTube channel. And I'm not saying that just because, like, hey, I want you to and it helps for us. It'll help for you as well. But you don't miss anything. You don't miss a day's worth of news because it's going to be meaningful. It's going to be coming after we get access to players, coaches, and at certain times open practice for us to draw our own conclusions from. Plus, we're going to be getting all kinds of great source information from these guys and all that great stuff. So subscribing here and subscribing over to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com right now for just $1. Try us out for a week and you get 50% off for a full year subscription for new customers. It's an insane deal. Link is in the description of the video. It's in the description of every video here on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. Okay, Nate. Big picture things you're interested in. I'm going to start with you as a big picture guy. What do you want to know by the end of camp about this team?
By the end of camp, I'm not going to know what I want to know, but I do want to know if this offense is going to be good.
Okay. Can you say some more about what you have questions about whether or not it's good, or do you know whether or not how good it's going to be?
All of it. I don't know. I'm a little bit swayed by, and just, you can crush me for this, the efficiency numbers from Iowa State last year. And I understand, like, it's not our job and wasn't our job to be like fully ingrained in how Iowa State's 2025 season went. But they were hurt, right? Kind of across the board, but specifically a quarterback, and that has a big impact on how performance goes. But even 2024, when they were better, like, it's not a doubt. It's just, who is Rocco Becht? I don't know. I think we're going to find out on this stage, in this program, coming off of an injury. I want to know about the receivers, right? Brett Eskilston, is he Chase Sewell? I don't. Kobe Howard. Look, I know I'm just like spitting names, but I just think that you can look pretty much across the board outside of the tight end position and have questions that could be answered positively, and there is reason to think they can be answered positively. But also, if you're being honest with yourself, like, but I want to know more. I want to know more, and I think that I'm not going to know until, just speaking frankly, maybe Southern Cal or Michigan. Like, I'm not exactly sure.
Fitz, the way I've been thinking about the offense, and I agree with kind of Nate's premise and principle here, that I'm more reasonably confident I know what the defense is going to be able to do than the offense for some of the reasons he pointed out there. My question has always been, are they going to be, if they're going to have enough juice? How do you view Nate's first claim here of what he wants to learn about the offense through camp?
Yeah, I question where the game breakers are, and Penn State in 2024 kind of proved that you could do it with a tight end as a game breaker. But at the same time, I don't know that that's the ideal setup when you're trying to spread everything all over the place and get a running game going. And Tyler Warren certainly had help there in the running game more so than on the outside. But I love the group of tight ends. I think the offensive line is good with the standard what do you call it? Just the standard warning that good is average, right? Yeah. Offensive lines are so tough to evaluate and tough to play these days that when you have a good offensive line, it's because they're pretty good at getting in the way. So I think this group can do that, and excel. Eventually as they get there, and then they get to USC, they get to Michigan. I'm really interested about Wisconsin as well, but that's T. Frank day for a show for another day. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I looked to the scorebook, really. You talk about the advanced analytics and everything like that, and I look to the schedule, and they're just kind of all over the place. They're going to play a 16-13 game against Iowa, and then they're going to come out and beat Kansas 38-14 against a team that they lost to the year before. So like they're all over the place in terms of scoring. I'm just curious, is this one that I don't want to say specifically tamps down their scoring level based on the opponent, but like I'd like to see them blow somebody out. Like, yeah, they did so to, I think, South Dakota last year, but like you'd like to see that. And again, 2025, we thought we were going to see more of that, and then they didn't do that. And it was just kind of like this thing in the back of your mind, like, do they have the juice to hang with these guys, and do they have the game breakers to do so on offense?
So give me another big picture storyline you want to learn. I just wrote some down, but I'll pick from those. But I want to pick your brain. What are the things you would like to know by the time we're done in August and we have the first week with Marshall? What are you thinking about in terms of checking off your list of things you want to know?
The big picture is, yes, we got spring practice with these guys, but like, where do the new guys fit with the old guys? Because I mean, we're talking about wide receivers, and we're talking about Kobe Howard. We think that he's a pretty good player, albeit a little bit different than what he was sold as last year. Is how do they deal with that? Because we think that if they're going to go 12 personnel, if they're going to go with Bramer and Rapplier tight end, Burkle's still working his way back, and that's going to be a conversation to be had at that point. But we've been talking about Sowell and Eskildson, right, the whole year as the two starting receivers. Well, is Kobe Howard better than one of those guys? Is Andrew Rapplier better than Ben Bramer? Or like, how do these holdovers, some of which we didn't see in the case of Rapplier, and actually in the case of the wide receivers as well, how much of that is ready to mesh, and how much of it is, oh, well, this guy was here before and he's actually better than he thought he was? Or the inverse, like, hey, Ben Bramer could have held his own in the Big Ten the last couple of years. Like, there's just like, I still have questions about the talent level relative to the other positions, rather relative to the players at the positions of these guys.
Yeah, and it's funny. You look around, Nate, I'll get to you in 1 second. It's just something that jogged my memory. I've looked at multiple places that like to put out depth charts for teams, and I always just go to the Penn State site to see, like, what do they think? And it's all over the place at tight end. Like, one has Bramer, one has Rapplier, one has both of them, one has Gabe Burkle, and like, so it's all over the place in what Fitz is talking about there. Nate, what were you going to say?
Can I paint a picture that I think sums up where my head is at? You're going to say yes, I know, but I'm just going to, that was a preface. Can you envision like a 20-17 game in Philadelphia in week 2 where Rocco Beck like leads Penn State down the field and wins the game?
Like, it's a game winning play against Temple.
And so it will like fulfill both elements of, hey, Rocco Beck's got the juice. He can do that, but also they only scored 24 points in that game, right? Like,
and that would also avenge the loss in 2014 on the road at Temple, right?
That we could not see coming. Yeah,
I guess I'm just saying, like,
that would complete the circle. I mean, just in so many ways, Nate, you painted a picture of healing for Penn State fans. Also of more pain on the way in one way, but yes.
Well, no, but
nature
not.
is healing.
It's not a bad thing. They have the ability to win games, but the production within the game, particularly early in the season, I guess that's kind of my like runway is early in the season. I think there's going to be some growing pains that have to be worked out. It would surprise me to see even Marshall and Buffalo for Penn State to win like 56-0. I'm not sure that I see that.
I probably have been talking myself into this because of the changes in the summer where they get more instruction time with the players, where it's not like you just good luck, go out on your own. And I'm sure that's not exactly how it all went. But when you can actually do NFL style camp installs where you're working with the players for a short period of time, you can accelerate the learning curve for some of these guys. And they've progressively gotten more of them back on the field for that. And so I think June and July there's an opportunity for it to be more productive. And the other end of that, Fitz, and I'll throw this one to you, and we talked about this all summer, but for people that are new to joining the channel, because camp is here, the offensive line is something they haven't had before in terms of the physical talent. They have not had a collection of players like this. So my concern, and I think the opportunity, is twofold. That they're going to rely on that group to win games ugly, and that can lead to domination if that group is good enough, right? And you just run all over Temple. But if there's some hiccups and they want to go back to that, and Matt Campbell is like, we need to establish the run, we need to control time of possession, you get into a situation where Temple or Minnesota or some of these other Big Ten teams, I'm not saying, I don't know specifically Temple's playing style, but you lower the possession amounts and suddenly you're in a closer game than you should be. And you don't get those blowouts because you are leaning on the offensive line. So I just want to get your thoughts on the potentiality of the good and the bad there with that view of how they want to be, as we mentioned, physical, tough, gritty, etc.
Could have sworn you were going to go with, and if Penn State beats Temple by 3, where would you go for that? And that's where we went into the anti-fragile plug, but that's going to have to wait. Yeah, I think that they're.
Why
are
you the host? You should. That's way better than what I said.
You're looking at a unit that I think that they can go 7 or 8 deep here, and I think they're going to play like 6 or 7 offensive linemen in terms of on the field at one time. They're going to try and grind it out. They're going to try and do that. You saw them do that last year at Iowa State, albeit on a different offensive line. We're talking about offensive structure here, going for it on 4th down and short and throwing the ball and doing some, I would say, sparsely creative things in short yardage and stuff like that. Cause I don't know that Carson Hansen's a power back. James Peoples might be a little bit more cut out for that. I mean, actually add that to the list of the things I'm anxious to see in terms of goal line back. But yeah, I think that they will try and lean on those guys a little bit more. I have questions which way they go, really, because I think that they would want to do it behind Trevor Burr because they kind of know what he is, and Brock Riker kind of right up the middle. Whereas on the right side, your best offensive lineman is there, and Anthony Donka, and then you have, I don't want to say questions about Cooper Cousins, but you're waiting to see what Cooper Cousins is, as is the same at left tackle. So like kind of the spikes all over the line. If you're doing a little line graph there is interesting when you're talking about experience, talking about power, talking about physicality. And when you bring in, a 6th or 7th guy to, I don't want to say make up for that, but sort of impose that. So yeah, I think they will. And I think they're confident in what they have in terms of numbers, and they're confident in what they have in terms of, the ability to squash the teams that you should squash, if you will. But at the same time, I think they still have questions about what they're going to do up front and how much they can be an offensive line based offense, which I think is what they want to be, right? You talk all this talk about physicality, all this talk about how you can, grind teams down and win those, run the football when everybody knows that you're going to try and run the football. Like those things are sort of the lifeblood of what this offense is trying to be. But at the same time, I think they have to find that out, especially right guard, left tackle.
Nate, you are spot on. I think the thing that I've subconsciously been thinking, and I'm not playing the Nate was right graphic for this. I've got too many things keyed up. We're going into the commercial break. I don't have time to pivot and play it, even though I want to.
Nothing's happened.
Here, It's the return of the cliche with Matt Campbell. There are so many, like, there's been this return to Penn State identity conversation with Matt Campbell, which is all about toughness, grittiness, blue collar football, all these things that like invite the cliche. Just absolutely dive headfirst into the words of yesteryear. This is a good time to run the football. Hey, don't get like, we're going to get into all of it during the season of like, why would you punt there or whatever? Like, well, it's all going to happen. Like, take the points, et cetera, et cetera. And that, Fitz, is going to drive me to go to hang out at Anti-Fragile. So, Nate, tell me what I'll be getting at Anti-Fragile Brewing Company.
You're going to get the best beer in State College. That's what you're going to get. And maybe the world.
Excellent. Tell me more.
It's so good. It really is. I'm kind of kidding, but I'm not. It's so good. I would call their specialty their hazy IPAs, just IPAs in general. So if you're into that, they can hang with anybody in that department. But they also have a rotating board of great offerings. They also have kombucha, and they have Uncle John's cheesesteaks out front, which are excellent. The whole vibe is great. You will catch us there on Friday afternoons in the fall. I'm not like promising that. Don't be mad if we're not there.
Yeah,
but we will be there quite a bit. And if you want to come say hi, if you want to punch me in the face, please don't. Come on, grow up.
You're gonna have to deal with me if you decide to do that. Also, if I'm around, I'm not as frequently there as Nate and Fitz. I have a more challenging schedule on Fridays.
T. Frank works out. I know
that. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the kombucha because that's what I can drink because I can't go be tipsy and doing squats.
Leg day.
Leg days is Fridays because it's too hard to do on Monday after a full weekend of football. So make sure you check them out this summer and, of course, during camp and during the season. And remember, like Nate said, if you go there and you hang out, let them know you heard about it here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Also, the Game Day collection from Roback is back. You get some new stuff from Roback this year. We're wearing our Roback stuff here on the channel all the time. I like to wear it on the Tuesday show to kick off the week because I want to feel good to start the week. I need some things to start the engine, and I feel like I look really good in this rollback. This isn't even from the Game Day collection. Like, you should go check it out. And if you do, make sure you use our promo code. Let me pull it up. We got 100 promo codes here, but it's in the description of the video. I know that for certain. I believe it's BWI20. I should make sure I get this right. Yeah. Use code BWI20 for 20% off at Roback's Game Day collection. So make sure you check that out and make sure you look good for the tailgating season coming up as well. And to go to the game, I think everyone is excited for the games. But here's the thing. I'm always probably more excited than most people. I seem to really latch onto this, and everyone's like, I don't care. But I think Beaver Stadium itself is an attraction through its renovation process. Like, everyone's excited to see, what does the stadium look like now? Nobody's been in this new iteration of Beaver Stadium. So you want to go for game day, make sure you check out the seats on SeatGeek. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. So let's say you want to go to the game. Maybe it's the same weekend. You're going to be here for an extended time, and you want to see what's going on at the BJC. Make it a trip where you get a couple of things all at once. SeatGeek can help you do that too. Of course, if you're looking for tickets to Marshall, you're looking for tickets to Buffalo, or maybe you skip in the non-conference. You want to get in the meat of the schedule. You're looking for that game against USC, which everyone assumes is going to be the whiteout. You can check them out on SeatGeek, and they will do their best to let you know what the kind of seat you're buying is. They have a rating scale 1 to 10, and it's color-coded. So if it's good seat, they'll let you know with the color code. Green means good, red means bad, just like stoplights. And of course, I have a code for you. We have a code for everything, right? Use code BWI for 10% off your next tickets at SeatGeek. Code BWI for 10% off your tickets at SeatGeek. And believe it or not, guys, link is in the description of the video. So there's just like anything you could want. The best thing you could do before the season is go through and click all the links, subscribe here, get your gear from Roback, get your tickets from SeatGeek, make sure you get your I don't even know what else we have in there. We have so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
And beer.
This is just a small diversion detour.
Sure.
For anybody that hasn't been in town over the summer and gets back, like Beaver Stadium looks awesome.
Yeah. It looks like a real stadium now, right? Like it's got the new light bar at the top. That's another thing. Like I haven't even kept up on that. Like, are they going to have the new LED lights that you can turn on and off this year?
I believe so.
So the game day experience should be like different. It's pretty exciting.
It's going to be, yeah.
I'm just waiting for the fourth quarter flag to see if we get that back or not.
I won't know if it's the fourth quarter without it, pal. How will I know it's important?
You won't be ready for Penn State football if he's not on the mic. I just don't know how you're going to handle that.
All I want to know is whether or not the tarp over the tunnel that has 1-0 on the underside has been replaced. That's really the biggest renovation.
I can almost guarantee that's happened. I can almost guarantee that.
What do you think it says? Attitude?
Grit. Okay, let's get into today's topic that I think is going to be the most interesting. Fitz wrote about this over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com this week, and stock he's buying on backups before camp starts. I've opened this up a little bit so that we can pull from different people, and Fitz doesn't have to talk about the same thing he wrote about. He can talk about whoever he wants, but we're going to each pick two. It doesn't have to be offense and defense. It can be 2 players on offense, 2 players on defense, guys that we want to buy stock in before camp starts. So this is where you're going to be putting your scratcher in your stocking on Campmass Eve. And so I want to know who you guys are going to and picking from. Nate,
yeah,
what do you
got to go to him. Yeah.
Got to go to Nate.
No, do Sean first. He's
No, I want to know why
you're the originator of the idea.
Okay.
All right, Fitz, we've been overruled. So, okay. Pick your own. This is a pick your own parameters so that we can get through this without a debate about the rules. So where are you going with your stock report here? Who are you buying stock on right now?
In terms of pre-stock camp, and so we do this thing every camp where, we have waves, right? You look back to the spring at wide receiver, and at first, Karan Brookins was doing some good things. Kobe Howard was doing some good things. Zay Robinson eventually was doing some really good things. So like you're going to be waves of this stuff. So you're going to see guys that, are, establishing themselves early, or, kind of take some time to get adjusted to practice to everything that they're doing, because everything is a process. And so I think you're going to hear a decent amount during camp based on the feedback and trying to read the people that we're trying to read right now in terms of sources on Amarian Jackson, the freshman wide receiver. I think that you're going to hear some good things on him. I think he's going to have an opportunity to squeeze in there and do some get some elevated reps. And we're talking about true freshmen in the top 6 right now, maybe even the top 4. Like this is a guy that they're very high on. Now, when you make that transition from spring to off season to preseason camp, like there are different levels at play here. Like, does his playmaking from the spring carry over to what they're trying to do and how they're trying to work things to actually get into game prep for the fall? Yeah. I don't know, because we saw, we heard this last year with Kobe Howard doing some really good things in camp and then kind of disappeared there. So I think that we hear in preseason camp, not necessarily we're talking about lining up on September 5th, Amarian Jackson being a guy that really turns some heads in the next month.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I wrote the camp battle preview on the receivers earlier this week, and I see no lies with what Fitz has to say. Also, I don't know that I ever would. Nate,
lies.
Now can I come to you?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, who are you going with?
Octavian Collins. I'm buying all the stock.
Okay,
because I think he's good, and I think he was good last year. And I think there's that obvious narrative gap for him to make up ground. And just like that last thing, right?
Yep.
Is interceptions and making, some of the big plays in the big moments. I think that he has that equity, for lack of a better word, built up to where that can be possible for him this year, and I'm expecting it.
He's going to be the number one corner. I mean, as far as like how that all breaks down, number one corner means a lot of different things, but that's also part of the story here for you, I'm assuming, Nate, is that he's going to be the guy at the top of the depth chart getting the most opportunities. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. Look, Darius Dixon is going to get a lot of buzz and should be getting a lot of buzz. He's a good player. I'm partial to older guys. Right, guys that have been through it, have been in that position a bunch of times. I just think that this is a good year for him.
Of course I was muted. Sorry about that. I was trying to do two things at once. Happens to the best of us because it happens to these guys all the time, and they are the best of us.
I thought it was me, so.
No, it was me. Sorry about that. The only reason I even knew is because it says here on the screen, it's like, hey, by the way, you're muted, which is super helpful. That's always great. Let's go through these again, just for the people listening on the podcast. We have people in the chat saying, James Peoples, it was such a good transition, too. Ethan Black from Keep Choppin'. Christian Bohan says Amarian Jackson, and Z-Man says Kobe Howard. That's where I'm going to go here. Kobe Howard, to me, I don't know if he is considered a starter or a backup at this point. It all depends on what you think of the offense and how many receivers count as starters. Are you going to have 12 starters on offense, game day announcements or whatever? I don't necessarily care. The feedback I've gotten on Kobe Howard, it's not just that it's been positive. It's that it has been a little glowing in terms of the way people have discussed Howard's abilities. And to me, that's a little bit different than like this guy's playing well, this guy's standing out, but this guy, special every once in a while, or like he dynamic and playmaker, all of those kind of, again, going to the cliches of playmaker. It's been brought up with Kobe Howard. And so to me, I have to just from that, I want to buy stock in Kobe Howard because I've also seen it. I've seen him do it too. Like I thought, no matter how you feel, where you land on, he was the savior that never was last year, or he was a young guy that was playing pretty well within an offense that was very limited on the passing concepts. He still produced. He was still averaging like 15 yards a catch at the end of the season, and when he has an opportunity, he made plays. So I'm going to go with Kobe Howard in that receiver competition, which I know there's a lot of names, and it's kind of a crowded field, but I'll put my money down on that player in that particular race. So Fitz going to come back to you now and give me your second play. What, Nate?
I want to make everybody mad.
Okay.
The ability has never been in question for Kobe. He is a good football player who will make big and good football plays. Like splash some water on you. Matt Campbell is as much as, if not more than, James Franklin as you have to be consistent and you have to block and you have to do all of the dirty, unsexy things to get on the field. He's just as much in that vein as anybody else. So if Kobe's all of the other things are there for Kobe, then he's going to have a great year. He will be a good player who has a great year. I just think that's plain.
Nate, stupid hypothetical for you. Does Matt Campbell play Kobe Howard last year?
No.
All right, now I'm going to mute both of you because I don't want to have that conversation again. But that's kind of what I'm baking into this, I guess, is that I'm buying into the development. I'm buying into the locked in Kobe Howard who has been putting in the work to do all the little things and be consistent. So that is kind of reading between the lines of what I was saying is, yeah, that's kind of where my mind has gone with that. Fitz, do you have do you actually want to talk about that, or do you want to go on to your next person?
No,
on your stock list?
That's one for the chat there. I also had Vea Ikakola in there, the offensive lineman, but
I like this
already
one.
picked my offense one. Well, I mean, I had him, and then was thinking about wide receiver being kind of wide open there, so you've got opportunities to make plays, and then you kind of hear more about the guys who make the splash plays in camp. If we're talking about buying camp stock, but Ikakola's interesting. Can play center, can play guard. He's trimmed down to 326, which is a sentence I just said because he's a big guy, 355, I think he was last year. Played some of that fullback role. Listed at 355 last year. So, I think that he can play a role into working his way into the back end of that rotation, and also being in some of those 6-7 wide receiver, or excuse me, 6-7 wide receivers, 6-7 offensive line sets that they're going to roll out there. So I'll go with that. But my defensive pick, Armstrong Nadim, I think that's a guy who we label as a backup that we think is a starter because we've heard so much about him, dynamic personality, all that kind of stuff. He's loud. It's awesome to be around him. But I also think that, he kind of bridges the gap between what they're looking for at defensive tackle in terms of, you got those massive guys that, they've dropped some weight too, getting into the season, 325-ish or around there for Siali Tapaki and Keanu Williams. But I just think that Nadim has the size at 310, 315, but also kind of that pop that some of the lighter guys on the roster have that, I think that's looking for that balance between what they had at defensive tackle, what they want to have at defensive tackle. I think he kind of bridges the gap there. And it's like, it's almost like having a 3-down defensive end, when you're talking about this new defense. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. He's got a background as, I watched some of his stuff yesterday as an edge rusher, as a prospect, and it was pretty good. And his frame looks nothing like it looked back then now, so you've got a different type of body, but a certain type of athleticism that comes with that. So I think it's fine if he doesn't start. Like, you got Tapaki, you got Williams as down 1, down 2 guys, but I think that he's going to, just kind of sprinkle in there and be a guy that you can put out there and on any down and make it work.
I mean, ideally, you have 3 defensive tackles anyway, because you want to keep those guys fresh, and rotation on the D line in a lot of teams is heavy, but especially when you have multiple roles to play, including, as you mentioned, odd fronts where you could even consider him a co-starter in certain situations because of those opportunities. Nate, who is your second player?
It's Ben Bramer.
I like this one. I like this one a lot. Tell me more.
I think he's a really good football player and arguably the best of the ones that they brought from Iowa State, and at a position that they're going to feature. So it's a pretty easy buy, honestly. Just like Microsoft stock. You just put your money in it, and then it is Microsoft. I don't know if that's still
it scores touchdowns. Yes.
I think that's part of the. I don't know. I buy index funds, which is where I thought you were going with this when we started buying single stocks. But I like it. I like the fact that, because here's the thing. This is still a conversation. Fitz and I, we've had this conversation. We've done this on the show of, like, is it Ben Bramer? We talked about it earlier. Is it Ben Bramer? Is it Andrew Rapplier? Which one of them is the number 1 tight end? And I think the answer is yes. But I've said this all offseason. I'll say it again. Ben Bramer is going to get more opportunities to get the big plays down the field. They're going to use him at wide receiver. They're going to use him in the slot. He's going to run down the seam. He is going to moss a couple of DBs, and he's going to have those opportunities. Andrew Rapplier can catch and run, and he will have some opportunities to get the ball downfield, but he's going to be much more multidimensional. At least my anticipation of it is multidimensional within the offense, lining up in the backfield, blocking, being like that kind of road grader. Fitz, you mentioned like putting strengths next to each other on offensive line to create an opportunity. Well, Andrew Rapplier next to Anthony Donko is pretty good. Like we've seen Penn State be able to run behind the tight ends in the previous offense, and that was a positive. So Ben Bramer, I think it makes total sense to me as a stock to buy right now, even if it is one of the pricier ones on an offense that, let's be honest, does not have any Heisman candidates here. So you're not buying anything that's super expensive anyway.
And 2 things with Ben Bramer, not just a red zone guy, as you mentioned, going down the seam, I think is going to be a big deal for him, and not an overpowering, wonderful blocker, but also not Mike Gesicki. Like I think that we've kind of it's one of those ones extreme or the other. And he's a decent blocker. I don't think he's as good as Burkle. I don't think he's as good as Rapplier, but I think he'll be serviceable in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that point.
I watched Mike Gesicki on the sled after every media availability. You cannot tell me he wasn't a great blocker. Thank you, Fitz.
Okay. I have this problem of when people tell me things, I believe it, and when I see things, I want to believe people. I bought into that, and then I watched it block during the season after that, and I got so mad. I felt betrayed. I was so mad about that. Anyway, like the video and subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Liam Andrews pops up in the chat. Keep chopping says, I'll take Liam Andrews. Penny stocks work for me. Yeah, you can buy super low on anybody here on the roster. There's no wrong answers. Maybe there's some wrong answers if they're not on the roster. So I went with one where I wanted to say what I've learned. And Kobe Howard was that, where's the wind blowing as far as I can tell. I'm now going to go with a pure T. Frank pick. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but Garrett Sexton is still a talented football player, and I want to buy some stock in case he's the sixth offensive lineman that gets on the field. It's going to be him and Owen Alcini. He's older, he's bigger, he's stronger, just from a size perspective, and I think that's going to work in his favor. So I'm going to go with Garrett Sexton as the sixth offensive lineman to Fitz's via Ikakola, although I like both of those answers. We'll see how all that works out. Long term, I want to buy Garrett Sexton stock because I think that there's an opportunity for him to step in at right tackle. It'll be a competition next year, right? So if I'm buying the stock now, I'm holding it for a long time. And I'm going to go with an extra one here, and then we can close out. I think everyone got theirs. I did not get a third. Max Granville, another T. Frank fan pick. Max Granville, sure. I am a huge fan of his potential, but not just his physical abilities, his work ethic, and his football intelligence. His dad's an NFL player. That helps a lot when you have somebody who's done it before and understands what it takes to be great at the game and can get you the information you need to be working on the right stuff even when you're working on your own. And when you put effort and desire with talent, I'm going to bet on that more times than as many times as I can. So I just wanted to throw Max Granville out there as a guy that you should be buying stock on because I don't know where it's going to end up, but I know it's going up from here. So Nate, you didn't get a third. So if you want to get a third, you can drop one in now.
I don't, but I do. I made marinara homemade on Sunday, and obviously in the aftermath, I wish that my parents were chefs because I thought I did everything right, but I heated the Dutch oven too early. And so by the time that I put my garlic in, it burned.
Burned the garlic.
Yeah. But it ruined the dish. And so if I had that familial influence to let me know, hey, this is how you actually do it.
You weren't thinking that at the time, were you? Oh man, I can talk about this on Tuesday.
I was. Because I thought, I wish that I had done this before. I wish this wasn't my first time making from the whole tomatoes. I did the whole thing.
Oh, wow. Did you get the right? Yeah. Did you get the Romas so they weren't too wet?
The San Marzanos.
Thank you.
So there you go.
From Italy. They shipped it. It's great.
Wow.
Hey, T. Frank, Max Granville question. Mm-hmm. The last time we saw him, he was 225, whatever, on the field I'm talking here. Yep. And for all intents and purposes, a situational pass rusher. He cannot be that now. He's 252 pounds, I think it is. What do you think you see from him as an all-around defensive end? Because that is going to be what is hammered home by Dan Lynn in terms of being on that, for lack of a better term, three down defensive end. How do you adjust your mind to get him off of being a situational pass rusher to being a defensive end?
Yeah, and this goes back to watching his high school film where even though he was better than everybody else around him, he still played the run. He still took that seriously. He didn't opt out of playing the run because he could just run around people. So that's part of my an analysis that I never thought of him as just a speed rusher. Obviously, he needed to be that when he was younger, but also there was some feedback that he was doing well in spring last year before he got hurt. And so the final piece to me is you look at the roster, and the roster is going to update, and the numbers and the weights mean what they mean. They don't mean all that much, but they are kind of an indicator of generally as honest as you can be assessment of where a player is from a size perspective. Yvonne Kamaju is 6'3", 252. Max Granville's 6'3", 252. He is not small. He's not a small, undersized pass rusher. Now, is he right on that borderline? Sure. But I think he can be an adequate to good run defender that brings you too many different variables to account for, including dropping in coverage. And so having that unpredictability, being able to move around the formation and attack the run from different areas is part of the calculus too. So overall, I think he's a very good, well-rounded opportunity play for Danton Lynn. And he's a guy that has those dropping skills when it's a roster of guys that maybe don't have as many of them from a physical standpoint. Even if they can do it, like, you wouldn't say that guy's going to excel in that area. And Granville's on that list of a guy with the athleticism to do some of those things. And I know that's not exactly the run defense question, but it is kind of looking at him as more than just the pass rusher and speed specialist, but it's a guy that can do a lot of different things. And that's why one of the reasons I'm so excited to see what he can do in this particular defense, which is, I think, going to be built in the next month or so with all of those different factors and variables in camp. Let's get to the BWI Mailbag. 10 minutes left. These 10 minutes are for you. Nate, way to do it. The entire show is for you. That's absolutely right. Not just the mailbag. This is for everybody. This show is for the people. Let's get to this question here from the BWI Mailbag, which is from our people directly, the people that support us and the site. We have a mailbag that goes up every Monday or Tuesday, depending on if I remember on Monday. And we have people at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com that submit the featured questions. And if you got any questions you want to throw in here, please feel free. We'll get to those here in the final couple minutes. So this is from Jay Clee, 717. Biggest physical freaks on the team, not named Armstrong Nadim, Tony Rojas, or Malachi Goodman. I have one at the top of my head, but I want to let you guys go first, and then I'll dig around and find one if I can. Nate, do you have somebody you want to nominate for physical freak on the offense? Or should I just pivot and give the triple option pitch to Fitz?
Yeah, just send. I love the, hey, don't say the ones that we all know. like how many physical freaks are on the team?
Are there underrated guys, Fitz, that you think could be added to that list of guys that really stand out in that aspect?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them. You look at number one. I think that tight end room is really good in terms of athleticism. But I'm going to go with one guy that Nate already mentioned, in Davian Collins, he's a really, really athletic guy. Like he's, just not only straight line speed, but short area quickness. He's got a lot of things that are going for him. He got mossed a couple of times last year, which is really tough for a corner because you can be in the right position, you can play the right coverage, and then all of a sudden the guy can be a couple inches taller than you, just have fingers slightly longer than yours and do some good things. So hopefully he can take that next step and really kind of be the guy that can play the ball. But from an athletic standpoint, he's as good as it comes in the secondary there. And Quentin Martin, we talked a little bit about him in the chat here, talking about his opportunity when you put him up against Carson Hansen, who's actually a really good athlete in his own right, and James Peoples. Look, you're in a Big Ten running back room, you're going to be a great athlete, whatever. But Quentin Martin has all the physical tools to be the home run guy. He can run in the 4.3s. He's a guy that's. I went back and looked at the Pinstripe Bowl, surprisingly strong between the tackles for a guy that's a little bit more wiry, 6'1", 210, 215, somewhere in there. And he's really made some gains. And once he learned, he's always been better than the guys he's playing with up through high school and all that. But once he learned the nuances of being an athlete in terms of technique, in terms of like how you lift to be stronger and faster and things like that, he blew up in Penn State's strength program. but just hasn't had an opportunity to show it because he had Nick Singleton and Katron Allen in front of him. I think we see him maybe as an option at kick return this year, and I think he'll get a shot at running back behind Hansen. So we'll see how that kind of translates to, can he be a guy that goes 70 yards? I think he's capable of doing that. It's just a matter of getting the opportunities to do so.
Just one anecdote on that I always think of with Quentin Martin is you watched him and Corey Smith, truthfully, in the spring game last year, and they were both trying to run between the tackles and like really put their head down. They couldn't generate any power. Fast forward this year, Quentin Martin, during the blue-white scrimmage, which I know less people saw because it wasn't on TV, ran through a bunch of guys in short yardage situations, second-team guys, but was still showing that pad level and drive. And to me, like, pad level is the biggest thing. They got a lot of tall running backs in this room. They need to improve their pad level, from top down. Carson Hansen as well. And if they do, it's a room that has a lot of upside. And I think you make a good point there about Martin being the guy with the most upside, which is why fans are most excited about Quentin Martin, right?
And with running back, it sucks because you talk about earning everything in practice and getting on the field, earning your way into the field. But there are some guys who it just clicks when you're out there in the game, and because maybe you're not as great at practice, you didn't get that opportunity. Martin's probably not in that realm, but like once he got out there, the comparison to Corey Smith in the Pinstripe Bowl, there was no comparison, right? I mean, yeah. Corey was out there and got the start actually, which means that he practiced better. And this was Terry Smith's call, or Stan Drayton was still around at that time. So it was their call of what they've seen in practice. And then all of a sudden you go out and play it in the game. You think back to, look, I am going to make a Zach Zwinat comparison here, not to Carson Hansen, but like he was the 5th or 6th running back that year when he first got into it, because he was not a good practice player. He was never a good practice player. And then all of a sudden he got his opportunity, he ran with it. So that is one position where you can see a guy kind of blossom seemingly out of nowhere like Martin did in the Pinstripe Bowl, because sometimes it just clicks when you're in the game field.
Yeah. We already mentioned Max Granville. I already gave a whole stump speech for Max Granville as a freak. So I'm going to go with Anthony Donko. I think we're missing another obvious one. This is a dude that has a good season. He's a first-round draft pick. The power he has in his frame is some of the best I've seen at Penn State. And I'm including Vega Ioane in that conversation as well, where I have seen more pure, like, the guy in front of him looks like a practice sled more than a football player from Anthony Donko than I've seen from other offensive linemen. It hasn't been consistent because he's been hurt. And so put it all together and he can be a lockdown right tackle that eliminates pass rushers and also is a road grader. And to me, like, you're talking about a freak, I don't care what the numbers are. That's an athletic freak on the offensive line. Scott wants to know, and Nate, you're going to love this one. We got more caveats. Which player not named Rocco Becht is the most critical to stay healthy this year? Is there a position that you think is thin outside quarterback where it's on a knife's edge from a health perspective?
Rocco Becht.
All right. Well, we got only a few minutes left. So Fitz, do you have anybody you want to add?
I was looking at this yesterday. I'm sorry, we only have a few minutes. I'm going to go into it, but I was looking at the position groups, and I'm stunned at the depth that they have. Not that it's saying this is going to be an 11-1 team or something like that, but given all the losses that they suffered, given all the turnover that they have, like, they've shuffled their cards and given Penn State a roster that's actually pretty deep. And is it as talented as the ones we've seen in the past couple of years? Probably not. But like, there's something to be said for, you look at linebacker when that fell off the table when Tony got hurt last year. But now you've got an opportunity to go out and play some guys that have legitimate college experience. We're not talking as much about Cale Brazina right now, but at the same time, that could be a guy that plays a bunch of snaps, if some things go a certain way. So like, I think that they're okay in every aspect of that. The offensive line, you always want to keep your guys healthy. Center is especially one that jumps out at me. So Brock Riker might be the answer to this. Receiver, yes, but also I don't think that we've seen enough from the frontline guys to say that, there's a one guy that you can't be without.
We know the formula didn't work last year when they were banged up, but now there's different variables in the equation. So I think that's a fair way to couch that. To me, I'm going to go back to Audavian Collins, because I think I like Jameer Joseph. I think with Zion Tracy in the equation, they've got 4 corners. But if we're talking about pure outside corners, you got Jameer Joseph, Darius Dixon, Audavian Collins. I would get a little bit nervous if I'm Penn State, if I'm down to just 2 of those guys. And now I'm like, okay, so do I want to play Zion Tracy at safety? Or do I want to play him outside? Do I want to play in the nickel? You can't clone him. So you get to play him one place on defense, and that would be an area where I think that there is a concern for Penn State if some of those guys on the outside get nicked up. Also nickel. Zion Tracy seems pretty important this year. Rivalry games, Nate. This one for you from LP Shred. Nate's article on the Notre Dame USC rivalry yesterday got me thinking, who would be your top 3 out-of-conference teams for a yearly rivalry with Penn State? Nate, no caveats on this one. Unless who do you want? Who are you looking at?
Some caveats here.
Well, I would not schedule 3 rivalry just for the. But if you get to pick among the 3, then
I think he meant the 3 of us each pick one. Yeah.
No, I'm an idiot. I honestly, and Notre Dame, Notre Dame's the one to me that has that appeal and is they fit a similar style. I think in
there's
terms
an
of,
ethos overlap.
There is an ethos overlap that where I think it makes sense and it would be a great game more than literally the other ones that are mentioned. Right. More than, and again, I'm a little bit younger, so I didn't really grow up with Penn State as being front of consciousness in how I consumed Penn State football from, whatever it was, 1993, when I was 9. Right. So that predated me a little bit in terms of the gravity of the Pitt, but to me, if you could get Notre Dame on the schedule annually, annually would be especially because I feel like,
is that also a revenue generator? Can I jump in and bring it to a business and callous perspective of big game? You can sell that as well.
Yeah, look, none of this is realistic. It's not going to happen. But if Penn State and Notre Dame had an annual thing, I think that would be great, especially because I thought the 6-7 was that 06, 07. That was when that series was played.
Yes.
Ish.
Yeah,
that was it.
They weren't great. They weren't great games to my recollection.
No. I don't remember because I was not aware of necessarily. Yes, Emirs, we've said 6-7 multiple times.
Not intentionally.
Today.
As it came out, I didn't want to.
Here's the thing, Nate. So this weekend, I went home for a family reunion, and I asked my 15-year-old nephew, what does that mean? And he's like, it means absolutely nothing. It doesn't come from anything. It doesn't mean anything. And I feel that makes me feel better. It absolutely means nothing. So therefore, there's no joke I'm not getting. It's just 6-7. That's cool. I'm good with it now. Some in the chat here. Historically, Syracuse used to paint our Lions, says Amirs, but they're boring to me. Maybe Syracuse says keep chopping. West Virginia in the chat. We have also not Pitt, and we have Pitt.
How Virginia Tech would also be just a delight.
Fitz, do you have any take? I am not good at this, so I don't have any on the top of my head. Is there any you want? Colorado? Anything you want out there?
No, Nate stole my punchline, so I was gearing up for it. So yeah, but we can go without. Yeah, selfishly Colorado. Taking a look at the current look of out of conference scheduling, Shippensburg maybe, but no, I think that it's Notre Dame. I'm not really against Pitt. I mean, I understand why Penn State has the mindset that they do. I also thought that series was a lot of fun when they played it the last time around. And I didn't, I grew up with them playing, but not in a sense of ever saw it until that last round of the series. So that's where I would go with it. But yes, Virginia Tech was the joke. Nate ruined it, and just kind of out here flailing about.
All right, well, I'll end on this note here. Penn State Forever asked me directly a question here to end the show. In the past, when reviewing film, You've mentioned how fundamentally sound Matt Campbell's teams appear to play. From that standpoint, I'm curious, what's one thing you're most excited to see during the camp and one thing you're excited to see during the first game of Matt Campbell's era? I'm going to go with run defense. I'm genuinely interested and fascinated in the change in the style of run defense. And I know that has as much to do with Denton Lynn as it does with Matt Campbell, but Matt Campbell hired him and has this personal belief in that style of play as well. So I'm going to go with run defense as the thing that I want to see. I think you see that more in the game than you do in camp. I don't really know how to answer the camp part of things because it's not necessarily like we get to see all of the things all the time that we want to understand what is and is not going to be in the, like I'm not a coach. So I don't know what drills, like, oh, they're running this drill. That means that's way more translatable to games than what they did previously. I don't do that. So the other thing I will say, I'll give you two, is a drop back passing game. I think Mike Yurcich had a good drop back passing game. The problem was he didn't always have the players to execute it. Like the offensive line had some weaknesses, or the plays were like a hair off from actually working. I would like to see more of traditional drop back passing, just good solid plays that make sense for the moment and are not simplified and then using gimmicks to get to them as a cheat code. Rocco Becht throwing the ball to receivers with timing and with layers and different concepts put together to make a good passing game. I know that is very reactionary, but I also think it's good. I think they should get back to doing that. And so those are two things that I think. The second one is very much Matt Campbell, of like offense is going to be cohesive and with a plan. And I guess one last tangent. Shot plays that aren't just designed, but are baked into the structure of the offense, where they're not like, okay, we need to call 3 or 4 shot plays a game. There's going to be shot play opportunities, and if you have the opportunity 3 or 4 plays a game, take it. Because when you dial it down to, we're going to call 5 shot plays, and 3 of them don't work, but you feel the pressure to throw it anyway, you're putting yourself in a position for more pressure that isn't necessary. And so I think that aspect of just kind of a more holistic offense is something I think you're going to see from Matt Campbell. So, long-winded, here we are at the end of the show, guys. Excellent can't miss preview. We're all going to go to bed. We're all going to get up, and we're all going to have another show tomorrow morning before we actually get to camp tomorrow in the afternoon. Nate, final thoughts with your hand raised. What's up?
Yeah, no, you have to ask me what I'm most looking forward to see, and that is discipline and accountability are like the 2 words that we've heard over and over, and everybody loves it. And I think that the players like it and the fans like it. It fits, kind of the mold of Penn State. I don't know this, and so I'm anxious to see it, is what happens when a player gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in a game. What happens when a player is late for a meeting during the week leading up to a gate, right? If someone body slams a tow truck driver, right? Like what happens? Hypothetically.
Allegedly, hypothetically.
I'm anxious to see that, because I do think that there's a little bit of a conflict of what fans want versus when the moment comes, and that
when consequences have to be meted out. Yeah.
Well, they've had a couple of suspensions this summer. If
they have
on the site, yeah. There's been that kind of thing, but they haven't been hit with that game week, because you can suspend somebody in June, July, and like without reporting, like without it coming to the surface.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Reporting, you never know. But when you miss that meeting on Tuesday of Wisconsin week, whatever, like that is, remains to be seen.
I don't think that those post-play penalties were, and this is my perception, I don't think they were like that big of a thing over the last 10 years. Maybe they were. I don't know. I don't have much to compare it against to. But I'm super interested in, does that discipline stuff happen less? Right? Yeah. What does it look like? What does this team look like? Not in the isolation of, hey, this moment of this game, but like on the whole, how often does that stuff happen? Is that actually mitigated by the character / personality identity that the head coach tries to instill in a program?
Yeah, we'll have to see how all that plays out, because even, good people make mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes. So we're going to see how all that works out. Nate, I think that's an excellent point, and the place I want to end the show, because we're going to find out. Tomorrow, camp starts. We'll be back tomorrow morning with a BWI Live. Greg and I are going to talk about some other things. There's plenty to discuss. So we'll be back this week. Make sure you subscribe here, because the times of the show are going to change this month when they transition to morning practices and when we have conflicts with other opportunities for us to go meet the team. We will be having to move the show. And then long-term during the season, we're going to be moving shows on days and times as well to accommodate the new era of Matt Campbell and his preferences for how things go, which is, I think, what this whole hour and 10 minutes is all about. We'll talk to you tomorrow.